XRP holders, it's official. Please read the disclaimer. So let's start out with the news that has the markets tanking today. Breaking April CPI inflation rises to 3.8, the highest level since May of 2023. Core CPI inflation also rose to 2.8, above expectations of 2.7. We are now experiencing post-pandemic inflation levels amid surging oil prices. Odd that the Fed actually rates hikes are surging. Wow, wow, wee, wow. Right? Now, we'll get to what's official in just a second, but this is a very tricky situation right now. Again, if the oil drops, then we could see a little bit of pressure relieved from inflation. But President Trump wants to reduce interest rates. And if inflation keeps going up, that is a recipe for inflation to continue to go up and even go up faster. So this is a tricky situation. Right now, if we look at what's been popping on the inflation gauge here, right? So we got energy and commodity inflation almost 30%. They're up. Gasoline inflation 28.4, airfare inflation 20%, energy, electricity less, but the big ones are everything that has to do with oil, right? And so that's popping significantly. Fruits and vegetables, but also because, you have to transport them. So if the transport is more expensive, then prices will go up, and so on and so on. Retail stuff, right? Stuff that you buy. Hospital services also, electricity is up, so the hospital takes more money, right? Makes sense. So with this situation right now, it's tricky. What is the Fed going to do? Now, it is official that the new Fed chairman is Kevin Warsh, right? The US Senate officially confirmed him. He will be replacing Jerome Powell, whose term ends this Friday. And he's in a tricky place, right? What does he do? Does he reduce interest rates? Does he keep interest rates where they are? Does he hike interest rates? Remember, we talked about this, how in previous banana zones, parabolic movements that the crypto market experienced, interest rates were very low. In 2017, they were around 1%. In 2021, they were between 0 to 1%, right? Right now, they're above 3%. And if it continues to go up and they even raise interest rates, then loans go up, payment, everything, right? So it's a tricky situation right now, and we'll have to see what the Fed is going to do. Now, of course, the crypto market price action did not like this fact, and we've seen XRP drop here. You can see when the information came out, 3:30. I actually sent this tweet here in the Telegram group. Interestingly, there's about 600 of you in the Telegram group, but only about 30 of you saw it, the post. So if you are in the Telegram group, take a look once in a while. I'll try to post more there. I'm a bad boy in that sense. It's hard for me to post like social media stuff because I try to do research during the day and not, and trade and not post social media, right? So I need maybe a social media person. So what we saw there is that the initial reaction wasn't that bad initially, and I said in the Telegram group, let's see how the market reacts. And it actually started out okay. The stock market was down, on this a little bit, but then kind of popped into the open, right? But then dropped, and now is coming up once again. Very interesting day here for the stock market. S&P 500 is actually doing better, right? You can see S&P 500 almost recovered all of the pullback there, but the NASDAQ, the technology, is lagging behind. And so we've had like big pullbacks today, stocks that were up big, like Intel and Micron, and others that were, where's SanDisk, right, down 8%. So we have some stocks that were AMD down 4%. So we had stocks that were, and NVIDIA is doing okay today, down 0.4, right? Palantir down 2, but for the most part, Tesla down 3.4. So we've had these stocks coming down here. And it will be very interesting to see how it closes. Right now, there's about an hour and a half. Will that trickle over to the crypto market? which again, Bitcoin dropped here all the way down to under 80,000, but popped back up a little bit. Also XRP, down 3%, but it was lower at 142. So again, I tell you this every day. I don't know what the market's going to do. I don't know what the inflation is going to be, right? And as always, just want to remind you that this video is for educational purposes, for entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence before you decide to invest. Very, very important. Okay. Now let's move on to something interesting. We know the Clarity Act is getting closer and closer and closer, and we'll talk about, the sexiest thing ever, bonds, in just a second. I know bonds is what gets you all excited. So make sure to watch all the way to the end. But I wanted to my wife, she knows, she whispers in my ear, she comes, bonds. um, Elizabeth Warren, of course, is anti Clarity Act. And she says, Senator Warren, it says here, top Democrat on the Senate Banking Committee, opposes the GOP crypto market structure bill released late last night. And Patrick with a zinger here, he says, I'm so impressed that Elizabeth Warren stayed up all night to read 300 plus pages of Clarity Act and deliver an objective assessment of the bill's merits and not just some knee-jerk reaction. This is what true public service looks like. Of course, there was no way she was going to be a pro Clarity Act after she went against. She's been one of the biggest voices in Washington against crypto and against crypto integrating into the U.S. financial system. So of course she's not, like, she can't flip. Although we have seen bigger flips in history, right? But for example, BlackRock that flipped and JP Morgan that flipped, they have the bottom line. They see the dollar signs. She's a Democratic senator from Massachusetts. Massachusetts. I should be able to say it because I was born in Massachusetts. Massachusetts. But it is what it is. There's going to be some that are against the Clarity Act, but hopefully there are a majority of Democrats that cross the line and vote for the Clarity Act. It seems that that's where it is. Of course, there's going to be a few that say no. Once we get through the banking committee, though, it's going to be interesting once we get to the full Senate, once we get to the full House, what's going to happen there. Because right now, it's only the committees. And right now, Republicans have a majority. But again, you don't know how Republicans are going to vote. It's not, President Trump has power, but it's not like all Republicans, just vote what the president says. Some of them are a little bit iffy, right? So we'll see what's going to happen once Clarity Act moves forward. Okay. So now let's talk about yields and bonds. So the US bond market crisis is intensifying while everyone is focused on AI and Iran war. The US bond market is in complete meltdown. The 30 yield is now above 5%, and the 10-year is nearing the pivotal 4.5% that we have been talking about multiple weeks already, which resulted in President Trump's 90-day tariff pause in April of 2025. Long-term yields are now above levels seen prior to Fed rate cuts, in another brutal reminder that the Fed cannot contain the long end of the yield curve. At the current pace, we are likely to see U.S. mortgages rate rise back above 7% this year. The question then becomes, how much longer can markets or the U.S. government ignore the yield crisis? And who folds first? I think, and I mentioned this morning, I was talking to my mother-in-law about this. She was actually interested. And I told her that there's this magical line, the 4.5% on the 10-year note there, that it seems that Trump always kind of backpedals whenever we get there. And we're getting very, very close to that. So we'll see what happens over the next week or so. Again, maybe the crypto market detaches itself. Maybe XRP detaches itself because of the Clarity Act. But there are some things concerning. I give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't just give you a pink bubble around our head and that's all we see. I've experienced enough things in life that I know that anything can change in the midst of a second. You can have one day you're up big, one day you're down big. You never know what's going to happen. So you have to be careful. And I always have the monkey on my shoulder. Okay, that's just how I do it, how I do things. You can do things however you want. Okay, that's your prerogative. That's what's so incredible in investing. Everybody does their own thing. Some people it's too much risk for them going to an S&P 500 index fund. And some people like high leverage day trading. Every single person can do. And some things, some people do individual stocks or individual crypto, no leverage. Right? So every person can deal with a different kind of volatility and uncertainty. And again, you have to decide what's the best play for you. And sometimes it might cost you a few dollars until you figure that out. Right? If you can't fall asleep at night, there might be a problem, right? So we'll see what happens. But it's not just in the US that there are problems. The cheapest money in the world, because Japan's interest rates are the lowest, but they have risen in the last year and a half or so, even more, right? When was the Japan carry trade sell off? It's the summer of 24, I think. So it's almost 2 years, actually. The entire global financial system borrowed it. Japan's 10-year bond yield just hit 2.5% for the first time this century. Japan is one of the largest holders of US Treasury bonds in the world. As Japanese yield ride and Bank of Japan rate hike gets closer, Japanese investors have less reason to keep buying the US debt. If they start selling, US borrowing costs go up for everyone. Japan's government debt to GDP ratio exceeds 200%, the highest of any developed economy on earth. Rising yields mean rising borrowing costs on the entire debt pile, pushing Japan closer to fiscal crisis. The Bank of Japan has already raised inflation outlook from 2.8 for 2026, but a hike is now being priced in as early as the next meeting. If Japan's economy comes under serious pressure, it will not stay contained. The US financial system is directly exposed. And again, all these things, all these factors could potentially shift what happens in the markets. And so this is very, very important that we don't hit another crisis again. We'll see what happens with crypto prices. Previously, in 2017, there was things that were bad, and in 2018 there were things that were bad. There was the Greek debt crisis, or was that even before? There was the China-US trade wars in 2018, right? But the markets recovered off of that. So there's always things that look a little bit bleak in the moment. But if you're a long-term investor, if you keep a certain cadence and a certain plan in place, then history has told us that those people are successful. I mean, look at Warren Buffett, right? He continued with his plan, a long-term value investor, and he was very, very successful. So you can't deny that, okay? So it will be very interesting to see what happens here in the next coming days. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop 8 for infinity and beyond in the comments section. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time. And like I always say, let's make a lot of money.